Hello everyone and welcome back to ROE 3, part 3 of the 3-part series. So now we're in the lock tower, and there's Brett the Handy's corpse at the left side there. So we'll go ahead and get started. We have a bit of a riddle here that we must figure out. I'll let you read that really quickly. And the last page. So what we must do is figure out how to get out of the lock tower, and also how to acquire quite a few valuable items that are stored within. So we're already locked inside a small room. We have to search around for the lever. And upon exiting, we trigger a switch, which relocks us into the larger area. So Brett was trying to open up that sphere inside the little room to get back out. That was the portal inside. And we've got all of these other cubes and spheres arranged around this circular room, each one with a note containing a riddle. And I had to write quite a few riddles for this mod, and we'll see those a little closely, more closely here in a second. The whole room is themed for different kind of motifs. Like this one is the sphere of duality, light and dark, and so forth. But to get what's inside, we need a key. So I had to take some take some objects and create containers out of them by taking a mesh for a chest, for instance, something that already opens, and reassigning its mesh to one of these cubes or spheres. Some of the assets in here are from the Dawn Guard DLC. And there's also these thrones about that release different things. So this first one opens a door from the ceiling, dropping one of these chorus hunters, which are a devil to kill. The nav meshing is a little hokey in this space. He can't fly quite right. He's a little stuck on the other side. And then there's also a skeever biting at my ankles right now. Go ahead and get rid of him with our bow. And it's still going to take a few hits. So I wanted this to be difficult. Not only do you have to get rid of some creatures, but you also have to think. There's the chorus. And as you can see, those thrones each have triggers in the seat. One thing I had to script in afterwards, after the fact. If you are a thief, if you have the skill to not trigger traps, then when you sit in these chairs, nothing will actually happen. So when you sit in the chair, a script runs, checking whether or not you have this this feature. If you do, it removes it until you stand up, and then if you had that feature, it re-adds it again to try and get around the fact that you may or may not be able to trigger these. And some of them, as you can just see, open doors. And inside the door, I love this asset. This is from the Dawn Guard DLC. There's these little nodes that you can shoot arrows through to, trigger a on-off situation. The off being the one that just triggered, removing the stakes from those Dwemer statue eyes. So we'll go around the room, we'll sit in all the chairs and see what happens. Some of them good, some of them bad. And you have to look around to see what happened. What's new? Aha, way up top there. There's another one of those nodes. In hindsight, I probably would have added a bow and arrow to this particular room just in case. So maybe next to Brett's skeleton over in the little area, put a bow and a few arrows to get you through this. Ah, there we go. This one's actually working pretty well with the nav meshing. Came right down and attacked. And there's our skeever. Dropped in from the other side. So this whole lock tower idea was supposed to be the Room of Encumbrance's vault. And the vault is where everything is held. So up top in the actual room, there's that pile of treasure chests that are all locked. They form kind of exterior walls for this area that you must be transported into by going inside one of the chests. So each of these thrones has a different triggered switch, activating either doors or you know, those nodes that activate the little stakes to get through the center of the room. And once you open up the portal in the center, there's a lot more to see. This gold chair was actually in shadow. I put a little yellow light to make it shine gold. And this was a very special script you'll see in a second here. So that portal in the wall, a guillotine comes out. And I messed with the decapitation mechanism in the game for days, trying to figure out how to make it 100% surefire that you would be decapitated when hit with that guillotine. And actually, they did a pretty good job, Bethesda, in the creation kit of hiding it. I can up the chance, but I can't make it 100%. So actually the script attached to that chair, it just kills you. It's just a simple sit, trigger, swings out of the wall, and as soon as it hits you, there's a time delay so that it hits the kill switch, and you go ragdoll right as it hits you. So here's our first riddle. The room is open now, and it says, "What barmaiden has double, without meat has trouble." Kind of a filthy limerick to lead us to our first destination. So down inside here, we've got a very dark space, and I've provided the character with quite a few torches. Torches are a must to be able to see or find anything in this area, as you'll see. So we'll go ahead and equip some torches. We don't need all 50 of them. I'll kind of do a little speed run through it. I'll do some cut screens so you don't have to see me walking. The first time through, we'll go ahead and get a nice view of what it looks like. And there's lots of treasure chests and some random objects placed here and there within the space. And those will come into play. So that first little filthy limerick, let's look for an object that matches the description. There we go. So what do we have here? It's a jug. The answer was jugs. So there's our duality, our first one, and we get a second riddle inside the box. So this is kind of a hide and seek. And I'll take you through and kind of spoil all the riddles for you. But beware, there are pitfalls. So let's go back and try this again. So you see the little platform. We don't want to fall down there, do we? There's got to be a way to bring that down. And I love this asset. The little candlestick that turns. Beautiful. And now we can progress. So as you explore the space, you're supposed to take a mental inventory of all the little objects that are placed around. Some of them end up being answers to the riddles. Others are there to purposefully misdirect you. Ah, there's another pitfall. So we look for that candlestick, and there it is. Give it a turn, and we're good to go. Without the torch lit, it would be almost impossible to find these objects. And occasionally you do get stuck way down at the very bottom, and your torch will go out. It's always good to have a few on hand. So the answer to that last one was an egg. The riddles, I probably took about a week or two, writing 40 or 50 different riddles, and I had to look through all of the assets that the creation kit had to offer and see what could be possible answers. Some of the riddles I looked up online and changed a little bit, but I'd say about 80% of them I had to author myself. And there's the bee. So we've made it through. There's a skill book at that last one, and then our first key to one of the spheres. So we need to go back up, and there's our sphere. And inside is an executioner's axe, which I've upped the chance of decapitation for. So by wielding it, usually you can get a decapitation every other time. Say about 50%. And I kind of speed through this, so feel free to pause if you want to read any of the riddles. For time's sake, we'll just speed on through. Another skill book in that one, the answer being the onion. Even to speed run through this, it took about a half an hour. And this is someone who made it. So it would take quite a while being trapped in this space to be able to get out. Cabbage was the answer to that last one. And now, the cheese. Another skill book. The entire space took ages to arrange. It's very dark inside, and that's kind of a designer's trick to keep any gaps from showing. So this entire space, there's no actual walls, it's just physical objects built together in order to cover the entire space and make it look like a solid physical space. If I were to zoom out within the creation kit, you would see tons of gaps, which I used. There's a black plane that you can kind of encircle an area with, so none of the flickering will happen. So I had to use a lot of black planes to avoid that. Luckily, during the design process, I was also had the foresight to lock the chests before I copied them. So the initial chest that I made, it's locked, requires a key to open. And there are only certain ones you can open with certain keys. So if you were to go around and try and open all of these treasure chests, it would be maddening because all of them are locked. If I had arranged this entire space beforehand, not thinking about locking them, then all of them would be unlocked with random treasure inside. which would be a ridiculously cheaty. Well, there would just be way too much for you to carry anyway. Back up at the top, when we opened the second box, we actually got our first piece of Nocturnal's armor, which is pretty much the goal of this quest, is to retrieve her armor. We got the gloves that give you enhanced pickpocket and, I believe, archery skill. All of the pieces are duplicated and re-enchanted pieces of the Nightingale armor, which is what I'm currently wearing. You can see the gloves. It's probably one of my favorite sets of light armor in the game. It looks kind of like Batman. And here's our next prize. The boots. So the boots were a custom script. You can jump twice as high, and you can jump off a mountain and not die. Those boots are actually featured in another mod that I did called the Bottomless Pit. It's the final reward at the end for making it to the bottom/top of the pit. A floating platform that's way above Skyrim that you have to jump off of while wearing the boots. Those boots, the custom script for them actually require SKSE, which is the Skyrim script extender. The function that that script operates on doesn't actually function with the vanilla scripts in the game. So I wrote a book called The Art of the Riddle. It's all about my process of how I write riddles and some research that I did about writing riddles. It gives you an example of a riddle that I wrote and kind of the thought process of writing riddles. A little Easter egg. That was a nice little limerick. I got that one off the internet. Changed it a little bit to describe boots. About the two brothers who work hard every day. And our next prize, we get our armor. So sprinting doesn't drain your stamina, and you can carry quite a bit more. This is a nice set of armor. The Piracy Sphere. This is a good one. So if you think about the theme or motif of each of these spheres and cubes, you can kind of figure out what the objects will be. The piracy one's obviously having to do with piracy. We have a pirate ship. For someone who gets motion sick, going up and down and weaving around back and forth through all of these little narrow passages can be quite nauseating. I actually get motion sick, so during the making of this, I had to play test it for hours and hours and hours, and occasionally take breaks because I felt a little seasick. So far, we've had a pirate ship, and a chain, and pearls, and this last one. an elegant riddle to describe a fish. And we have our piracy key. So here we are. And next, we get a skill tome. So if we activate it, it's called Plunder. And Plunder is quite an interesting spell. You'll get to see it a little bit later. In fact, I'll show you all of these items later in action, how they actually function. That was another custom script. So the vices all deal with, you know, the 7 vices and virtues. So again, we've got, you know, like greed and lust, and things like that. Hunger, or not hunger, famine, or not famine. What am I thinking of? Gluttony, that's the one. And wrath being caused by alcohol, our final vice. Which will bring us to our next prize. And it looks like my torch went out. Alchemancy, this is a fun one. This was both kind of to annoy and frustrate. The spell, pretty much what it does is just adds 1 little gold piece to your inventory every time you cast it. In order to buy anything in the game, you'd have to do it hundreds of times, so it's not really a, a viable method of gaining money. But those who are greedy enough, you can use it as many times as you like. My torch has gone out, and I haven't lit another one. I'm sure eventually I'll have to light one. I imagine somebody actually working through all these puzzles would get immensely frustrated. It's meant to be both physically and mentally taxing. This entire quest is. But the rewards at the end are definitely worth it if you can stick with it. And our next prize, the Staff of Elements. This one was fun. It a combination of all the elements: fire, frost, and shock magic. When you dual wield 2 of those staves, it's quite an interesting effect. You'll get to see that later. And I included a candlelight spell tome kind of halfway through there in case the character doesn't have it. And you've run out of torches from searching endlessly. Now you've got a candlelight spell that you can use. There's an unenchanted Duskbreaker. I called it Duskbreaker. It's actually Dawnbreaker, the sword, but changed the name so that you can enchant your own version. I always wanted one of those myself inside the game. I was disappointed that I couldn't disenchant it and keep the sword. It's a really beautiful sword that you can hold first person and see the glowing. So now you get your own that you can enchant. This is a really interesting riddle. This is probably one of the hardest ones. It's very enigmatic. But if you think about the death theme of this particular one, you can figure out it's a coffin. Get some black soul gems, and finally, one of my favorites, the Ring of the Dead. This was quite an interesting script to write. When you put the ring on, you go into shadow form, which is one of the abilities granted by one of the deities. I attached it to a ring, so when you put it on, it activates. But taking it off doesn't deactivate it. You actually have to hit escape to exit shadow form. And again, you'll get to see that later on. That particular riddle was based on something my friend always said to me. There was a character in a game that he used to play that I can't remember what it was, a dwarf or an elf or something like that, and it would always say, "Don't forget the ladle." And our next prize. Second to last. The cowl. So your time between shouts is reduced drastically, plus speechcraft and one other. So by wearing the full set, you get quite a bit of boost. I wanted it to be a full, complete set of armor that gave you enough boosts that you wouldn't have to enchant any alternate items, especially for a thief character. This might not be the best quest if you are a mage or a warrior or fighter type. But that's why the quest itself revolves around the Thieves Guild. And Nocturnal, of course, who is the patron of thieves. The battle axe that I dropped earlier. I'm just trashing the place. This one's a little tough. It's up high, and that's what the riddle says, mounted on high. In hindsight, I probably would have put it closer to the floor. And our last key. Say goodbye to the lock tower. So on our way up here, we still can't escape. There's no door to get out. So I have given the player 7 spell tomes, all of which include a single and dual cast spell to translocate you from one location to another. Each of the major cities plus Dawnguard. So if you only have the single cast ability, it translocates you to the outside of the city. If you have dual cast capability for this type of spell, for alteration, you are able to cast yourself inside the city, which is it's really nice, really convenient. And we'll see one of the benefits here in a minute. So you can't dual cast indoors. It is actually one thing that the creation kit would not allow me to do. So we'll single cast ourselves over to Markarth, and there we are. As we can see, it's nighttime, and the first time you use any one of these spells, it automatically completes the quest. And there we go. We've escaped. So let's use our spell again. There's the dual cast version. It should take us right inside. And there we are, inside of Markarth.
The Dawnguard is looking for anyone willing to fight against the growing battle.
So we'll go ahead and cast it one more time and translocate ourselves to a different place. Dual cast. So this should take us inside, and I believe Riften. And there we are, inside Riften. So if you're inside an interior space, not in Tamriel, or one of the major city world spaces, it won't actually allow you. So like if you're inside of a house, or inside of the lock tower, or something like that, you can only single cast. Alright, and that's the end of our video. I'll do one more, kind of a part 4, and we'll demonstrate all of the different pieces of armor and skills and weapons that you've gotten from the lock tower. Alright, thank you for watching.